Okay, it's time to do what we all want to do. Everyone does around the world. We want to sample. We want to sample maybe a vocal. We want to sample maybe a beat. Get a sample of a voice on something. We want to sample something. Sample some gunshots. I don't know. We want to sample it, get it right, put it on the machine, make sure we know where it's at once we sample it, and then pitch it or pitch change it, maybe speed it up, maybe slow it down, maybe add some effects, maybe do this. Let's just do it, man. You know what I'm saying? Like the commercial said, let's do it. We're going to use one of our Sample King CDs. This is our off-the-record CD. We're going to pick out some beats and little samples right here. Pop that in there, and we're going to press play. Now, the thing everybody does these days is sample up a beat. You know what I mean? Sample up something real fast. Yeah, I like that. That's a fat beat, too. Oh, yeah, I remember that beat. Well, I'm trying to find a sample we can use here. Oh, that beat right there. We're going to sample that beat. Okay, it's time to sample. We got our CD in. We know the beat we want to sample. Let's try and sample something. So here, of course, I'm in voice. Now I'm going to go to pattern mode. Because my pattern's here, that song I had before. I want to sample a sample me to go with this pattern to see if the sample actually fit in or something. So what we're going to do right now, we'll sample something. We need to press our integrated sampling. That button right there. And now we're in sample mode. As you can see here, it says sample right here on top. And this says Dr. Goo. All right? It's the name of our actual pattern we're using. Here we have a type of sample you can use. Now we have several choices to make. We can have slice and sequence. This is where it takes the sample and chops it up into a single sequence where every bit of the sample goes on keys on your keyboard. And you can play little parts of the sample. We can also go to just sample. We just sample up a piece. You know, get a little sample in there. We can also do sample and note. Where, for example, if we're playing a pattern, we may want to start the sample starting at the same time the actual pattern starts. So once the sample goes in, we can actually start it, and this will be set to a note value within our pattern. Those are our choices. Below that, we have our source, which is AD. And we have resample. We can actually take a sample and resample that same sample over again. Next, we have our next. On or off. And we also have over here, as you can see, stereo, right, left, left and right mono, and stereo. We can also change the bit depth of our sample. We can go from 5 to 44.1. Now the lower frequency you can use, you can get a lot of bass out of your sample. The higher frequencies, we get more of our bass, our mids, and our lows. So if we cut our sample frequency down, we'll get more bass out of it. It's very important to know. Okay, so we've got some idea what's going on here. As you can see here, we also have source. And we have destination. This would be the destination where the sample would go. This would be the keyboard bank. That means somewhere on the keyboard would be at C3. And the source here would be the target mean. We're in a pattern mode, so our target would end up being a specific track in this pattern. In this case, it's selected for 1. We want to select 9 actually for this purpose and make 9 the source for us to put this actual sample at. Then we have our record function right here, where I can record something. But first, we want to set up our input-output. Now, to set my source up first, I want to probably press utility. Now here in utility, we can see that we have our volume, note shift, and the general. See it there? But I want to go to I/O. It's my input-output. I'll press F2. Now here in F2 we have an input. We have a mic and line. Of course, it's digital right there. Now we're just going to regular line in. We're going to put a line into our system. we use a cable somewhat like this. You see right there. And that cable will go into our input. I have two cables coming out of my CD player for my input for my line. I can also use a microphone. There's a microphone to plug a microphone in there into that cable input, and this will increase the impedance, giving us more power to pick up the signal from the microphone. In this case, we're going to make sure I'm in line for this particular recording. It's going to be for my CD player. Okay, now I'm ready to record. So next thing I'll do is I'll press pattern again. Then I'll press my sample button, which is like the integrated sampling button. Okay, the first thing you want to make sure you got done is your trigger level right over here. Now I don't want to do manual. I want to do mine so it's set to a level. I want to do it from a level. As you can see, that says 64, and that's where this is at. This little thing right there, little triangle. Now watch this. I'll bring the cursor down. I'll move it down to 64. And I move 64. The further down I get in numbers, the lower that gets a threshold level, where when the sound passes that little triangle right there, when it passes there, it'll start to sample. So I have to get it maybe not to 1, but maybe close to right about there. But 1's good too for me right now. And this one, when it passes that point there, bam, it'll start to sample, and it's called our trigger record. See that? That's really good. And of course, it's our view of left and right. Now next here we have, this is our record monitor. Now, when we play our CD or play any kind of instrument, we'll be able to hear back and lower that level. Now watch this. Play it for me, Volt. So I can lower the level now by turning this dial on. So you control the level of the input monitor. It means you're going to monitor the signal coming in so it's not too loud. We can hear it back properly. Now, next thing I would do first, before I do anything else, is I would press record. And see, we can start recording. We can press stop, like that, and we stop recording. And there's our wave file right there. See that? Well, now we're going to get the actual sample we want to get. But first, we can audition that sound. We're going to press this button right here, F3. See that? And we got all this noise here. We got this thing with that. We got a good level too. See those spikes at the top there? That's a nice loud level. You want to record a nice loud level to get a proper audio signal, but make sure it's not distorted. Don't go too loud, but loud enough to get a good, clear, clean, bumping sound. And once you get the sound you like, you can either say, okay, if you don't like it, press cancel, and we'll do it again. In this case, I'm going to press cancel. And I'm ready again to start over again. Perfect. And there's our sample. Now I press audition, which is right there. Okay, let's work with this sample. I'll press OK. You know, we get that sample size is good. Maybe this big, but the part we want is in here. So we want only this. You got me? We must truncate or edit the sample up. Let's edit the sample up. Okay, so I've got my sample already. Now I want to press my edit button, which is right below my integrated sampling button. I'll go to here and press edit. And now I have a new window. This window is our sample edit window. It's a very important window to have to make sure you got your sample and to make sure that everything's ready for it. So here, as you can see, we have keys. See that? With our sample, the waveform is right there. And we also have the velocity setting. See that? And we've got our key bank, which means C3 to C3. That's the range, that's the key that triggers the actual sample. We also have it in stereo. See that? Mono stereo, but it's a stereo sample, as you can see. Now we can audition that sample, and we'll press our SF, as you can see there. And we can audition that sample. Make it a little loud in here better. Yeah. Excellent, that sounds great. So now, I've already selected the sample. We select that sample. You may want to trim your sample, which means get rid of the parts we don't want to have, maybe too much on it. We can press trim by pressing F2, and we're in the trim mode. Here we can see our sample. As you can see, we've got nice big sample with the peaks and the highs and the lows. And this is our start point. This is our loop point if you want to loop the sample. This is our end point. We want the sample to end at. Pretty obvious, right? Okay, here's how that works. I'll turn my data wheel, and you'll see a little line move there right there in front of the sample. See a little line right there, this one right there. See that move right there? We'll turn it closer. Now, if you can't see it that well, what I normally do is I zoom in. So I'll press the zoom button, which is right here. See that button right there? That says zoom, right here. I can zoom in closer. Now, because I am in the start sample, it's going to zoom into the start point. I can zoom out. So now I want to move my cursor a little bit more. You see the sample waveform move perfect. See that? It moves just in time with the beat. And I'm moving right over here, just in time to this little, me moving this little dial here right to the top of this beat. Now I can audition and see how far I'm at. That's great. I can start that sample. Next, we'll get the end. Okay, we're going to find an end point now. We'll move the cursor button down to end. See that? Wow, we're far away. So I want to go back to my zooming back out. See that? Okay, there we go. I'm going to get to the edge where I see a little piece right there. Now I'm going to move the cursor, move the dial, that wheel, and move my wheel way over now. We got so much there because the sample went on a little bit longer than I wanted to go on, actually. Which really wasn't that long, but we're going to move it closer anyway to get it close enough to the edge right there. As you can see, the numbers are increasing, or decreasing rather, as we get closer and closer to the end. We're going to get the proper size that we want to loop up and make sure the sample can actually loop. That's a classic thing we do in hip-hop, is to loop everything today, I guess. Not just hip-hop. You can loop anything you want to loop, what's a vocal or a beat or whatever, even a guitar part. So here, I've got to end I think it's going to be pretty good. I'll go to here and press audition. And see that? It's trying to loop. Here's the reason why. I go to parameters, and here in parameters I already have set for loop. This is my dB level. I can go down to here and set it to reverse. Now audition. See that? And I can also go here and do a one shot. It means I'll play it once, it'll stop. And it stops. It's important to know how to use your sampler. Now, of course, up here we have our level. We can lower the level, and you won't hear much of a sample. Just lower there. A little louder, 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 louder. See that? We now have a pretty loud sample there. So next, I'm going to go back to my loop mode. I'm going to try and loop this thing up. It's almost skipping it. Too much space on it. But you can see the original key is C60. That means when I play C60 and I move my cursor to track number 9, with the track I recorded to in this pattern, we will hear the sample at C60 at its original key that I recorded at. We can also fine-tune our sample in this window. We can go to here, we can put the sample and pitch it up. See that? And we get right back to where we had it before, which is 0. So now, I like that. That's pretty good. Not too bad. Well, what I want to do now is make sure I can loop it properly. I'm going to go back to my sample trim again. And here in trim, maybe the end isn't so hot. I'll move the end a little closer, and I'll try to loop it now. There's the end. Let me try a little bit more closer in. I'll go to 10.8590. A little bit more in. Let me get close enough. see it real close now. Now you can't see, sometimes you'll zoom in. Watch this. We'll zoom in. See that? Look, we're far away. We want to get closer. See how far away we are? And I can really see the sample. You can really see in the waveform as we get closer and closer to the waveform. We're seeing the end of that sample. We're right up on the edge there. Wow. This should be the loop point I want to go to, the exact end I want to be at. So, right now, what I'll do is I'll press audition. I like that. It's not too bad. I think I'm going to get a little closer. Somehow there, we're just barely missing it. And I want to go back to my beginning again. Make sure my beginning is right. See that? There's a waveform. I get to the peak of that waveform. So I'm a little closer on that waveform right there. And now I'll try it. So we're going to adjust your sample and try to figure out what's going to be the best point for you to actually sample and loop at. Now in my case, I'm seeing it as a much bigger waveform coming up. So let me try to hear. That feels better to me. I like that loop point. See that? I went a little bit further in. There's a little space here with some noise on the end of this thing that I don't think I actually need. I hear this little piece here of noise. I need to get right to when the sample is actually ending. I can go loop to. I felt here was about the right spot. It's kind of ending right there, okay? So now I've got my sample looped. That's kind of cool. Now I've always been saying C60, but it's actually C3 as you see it. We'll go back here to our parameters, and it says here C3, which is actually C60. Every key has a particular number to it. C3 is 60. Now that's within the range here. We'll go to range now. And you'll see in range here, we got a range. We can go from C60 to C60, which is C3 to C3. See that there? All right. So C sharp would be C sharp 3. I'll move the cursor here. And that'd be 61, we'll say. Because they're all in numbers, and actually I see them in numbers. But here you can keep going bigger and bigger, and you'll notice here that we have this keyboard range is changing. We can go all the way up to here and have a lot of different sounds. If you hit your keyboard, you'll be able to see that. Let's show them, let's do that. Okay, now we're going to see it here. Let me see it. See that? Let me see it. Here. See that? So we have changed the range of the key for that one sampling. That's going to be my C3. Move back over here. I can create lower notes, even lower. See that? That's really good. So now I go back here to C3. So we'll see where it's at. We're going to get to C3 there and move this back down to C3 here. See that? And this means that only one note in the entire keyboard range, C3 is the highest and C3 is the lowest note. See that? That's really cool. And the velocity is right here below us. We can lower the amount of velocity it could be actually set at. It could be a low velocity. Until you play it. See, the higher the velocity, the louder it becomes when I hit it. We can control our velocity level also, and you can see that here also in the meter. You'll see it here, and we control the velocity level. We've got our sample here, and you can see now, I've zoomed in a little bit. And you're always going to see this little waveform thing like here. Well, all you're going to see when you move the dial is this front half moving. See, I'll zoom back out a little bit, and that's all we see. See? This front half moves because it's trying to save memory, I guess. So you can just see this front half. Well, press display and see the whole sample now. See that? You can see the whole sample move along the entire sample range. See that? You can press display again just to see the beginning. If you only want to see this part here, you can see that part right there only. And this will say it's the rest of the sample, but But here's where the sample's really at. This is just some sort of graphic to show you this is the zoom level that we are at. I can zoom back out. That little thing, we see it's there, and now it's gone. So once you get to that part there, we can zoom in display, we got a better view. That's important to notice also. Next, I want to talk about loop point and start point. This is LP and ST. This is start point, loop point. Now, when there's a little line between the equal sign, they don't equal. That means if I change my loop point by turning my data wheel, it moves by itself. I'll move back to here, to 5. But if I press this button and they are now equal, if I change the loop point, the start point changes. If I change the start point, the loop point changes. They're linked together. I want to talk about this set in for a second. Just a little bit about this part here. Now we'll press set in, which is going to be SF3. And here we are on set end. Of course, see the start point, the loop point, and the end point. Well, here we're going to have our tempo for our particular pattern we're using, because we are in pattern mode. We actually made the sample, and we have our meter, which is 44, which is 4 over 4. See that? 4, 4. And we have the measure, or the measures we'd have that sample length would be within this particular tempo. That's a 1 bar sample. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, stop. So it loops though. 1, 2, 3, 4, the end. That's a 1 bar sample. We set this to 1. So I have 1 bar set up there. Now, when it's set to 1, we make sure it's okay. You can press OK. You got to put the numbers in too. We'll press OK. And now, I'll zoom back in. We're set for this 1 bar sample. So always set, when you go to set end, if it's a 1 bar sample, make it 1 bar. If it's 2 bars, make it 2. If it's 4, make it 4. You got me? This represents the size of the sample you're going to use. Now, one thing I want to show you here is that we have numbers here. And sometimes turning the wheel takes forever. You know, you turn this little data wheel on the side, it takes too long. There's a number. See this number there? Press information. We get these numbers on the bottom here. See that? We can put this number in right here. We can put in 0, 0, 0, 0. I can press 4. Then this is 1. And this here is 5 right here. I'll press enter. It gives you that number right there. See? It just changed it. See that? So you can actually put the numbers in using this number key right there. Now we can actually select our sound also. So select here is for. And this is our waveform, 1 through whatever. And this is the name of that waveform bank. And so I can press select and select the sound, audition it. Turn my data wheel to my next sound I want to audition. I'll press select. So we can select the sound we're about to edit and to configure for our motif. Okay, now, you know, you get the sample size you want. I got a sample size I like pretty much here. My main problem with samples, though, is that I got a bit in the front here and a lot in the end I don't really want to have to see ever again. And it wastes sample time. I really don't want that. So here's what I normally do. I will extract. First, I'll make sure the sample's the right size. It sounds like it's pretty good to me so far. And so what I'll do next is smooth out a little bit at the end. And make sure I got the perfect ending for my sample so it loops perfectly for me. Okay, once I got the sample size I want to use, I want to extract my pieces. Here's how you do it. You press extract. It says yes or no. I'll press yes. And now, look at it. We got no more beginning, no more end. It's the exact sample size we have right there. See that? We have the loop and start point is 0. And we've got the end is the end. So this is the size I want. This is what I want to keep. This is what you do. You want to keep the right size of the sample that you want to get. Okay. So now I've got my sample in here, of course. I'm going to edit again here. I've got my sample selected, which is, of course, this one right here. And what I can do next is we went to trim, and here I have my set end. I set my set end to be that 1 bar, as we said earlier, and of course it's a 4/4 meter, and we've got 105 as a tempo of the song we've been doing so far. So now it's going to put that one particular sample, it's going to loop for one bar here in the pattern I have. So I go back to pattern, I'll press pattern here. And now I'll press the locate button. Let me start from the top. So it doesn't fit for us. And our main problem here is that the beat doesn't work. But at least we saw what to do. Okay, you know, sometimes you want to get a sample. So what I tend to do also, I'll take a sample from the computer, and I get better accuracy from, I get my time stretch capability. I'm going to take a sample in Pro Tools, for example, right here. And I go in Pro Tools, now listen to my sample. I may want to use that sample. I'll stretch it out a little bit. I'll pull up my trim tool. And now I may just want to get the front just right. And move it in a little bit, like that. Get the end just right. Just so I want to have it the front and the back right. And I'll move this over a little bit. Get the end just right, so I know I'm going to have here my sample size. And get it right to the edge of the sample right there. Now, I'll play it. Okay, good. So what I'll do is I'll time twist my sample. Make sure it's the right tempo. Once it is, I'll export this sample onto my disk. And once I get the right size of the sample I want to use, I'll get a standard that I use here, like this. See that right there? This is the media card we use for our motif. I'll take it and I'll put it right over here in my little drive right here. I got this in Tokyo. I was in Tokyo recently. It's a great little drive. It's a multi-card reader. So it reads all kinds of cards, like a compact flash, like this one right here, and it reads also the media card, so I can transfer my files back and forth. So I'll transfer a file there, right in the card. Once on the card, I will take that card and put it in my motif. And make sure it's a waveform, because the motif has to read a wave or an AIF file. Okay, so I got the card right here, as you can see. This is our monitor here in the studio, of course. We look at this monitor all the time, adjust what we're doing. Well, here, I've got a card in, as you can see on a slot right here. Go in the vault. And I'll pull this card out. Here's the card with my new sample. Put the card in. Now we're going to load that sample into our motif. Okay, another way to actually sample and to get something sampled into our motif is to sample it into a song. Now in this case, I'm going to use a microphone, but you can also use a guitar, a bass, or whatever you want to sample a little piece into a little part of the song, or a solo into your track. And here's how you do it. We're here now in song, as you can see. And what we plan on doing next is to sample. So we'll press integrated sampler. We've got sampling going on. But first, before we can sample, we need to make sure what? You know what we got to do. We got to go to that, press utility, and we got to go to mic. And now we hear me on the mic. Check that out. That's kind of fat. I like that. Okay? Next, we're going to go right to song. Now, see that there? Before we go to song, we're going to record a sample, integrated sampler, and we've got to pick a track to record to. So I'm going to go here to note, as you can see there. But first I'm going to go to song and pick the track I want to record to. I'll press track number 6 here as we open. Maybe we can try it. Matter of fact, I'll go to 6. That's good for right now. Okay. Matter of fact, let me go back to 9. I like 9 better. See that? Now, I'll go to integrated sampling. I'm set for sample and note. This means when I first start to say something in the microphone, the sampler section will trigger, and so will the song sequence. Now I've got it set to AD, which is analog digital, of course, our source file, our source, and we're going to do a stereo sample. In this case, I'm not in stereo. I think I'm on the right side, so here, I'll move over here, and I'll press record. And you can see me right there on the right side. See that? I'm saying something, and it's giving us a volume level. it's important to get the best level possible. Sounds good to me right there. Now when I press record, the actual track will start. As you can see, as my input monitor can lower it even lower, you hear me less, I'll turn it louder, and you can hear me even more and more and louder than ever before. See that? It's great. So we can monitor the level of what I'm saying here. Next, I'll press record, and when I start talking, the music will start playing. Yeah, here it comes right now. It's Doc in the house. It's a Sound King's original DVD. This is the Yamaha Motif XS. Know what I'm saying? For my G's out there, for those who don't know, this is how we flow on the mic. It's right and tight. That's kind of fat, right? That's how we do it here at Sample Kings. Now, I'll stop. I'll press stop here, and it stopped. Wow. And you don't hear me anymore. See that? There's no more me on the microphone. Thank God. I sound really bad, but I'm just trying to help everybody out here. My people are laughing here in the background, but it's all fun. So you can audition now. So let's hear how it sounds. What does it sound like, Doc? Well, it sounds fantastic as far as you're at. Here it comes right now. It's Doc in the house. It's a self. See that? I can press cancel and do it again, or I can press OK. I'll press OK. Now, that's kind of cool. But watch this. I'll press song. And now you see at number 9 right there, we got a wave file right there at 9. That's our file where we have the audio at. And now we'll play it back. Yeah, here it comes right now. It's Doc in the house. It's a Sound King's original DVD. You see that? Yamaha Motif XS. Know what I'm saying? For my G's out there, for those who don't know, this is how we flow on the mic. It's right and tight. It's kind of fat, right? That's how we do it here at Sound King. Press stop. And you see I recorded an actual vocal into the track. That's really funky. Well, I've got my vocal recorded in there. Sometimes it might seem like it's low to me. I'm not too sure. You can always press your mix section right there. And we go to our volumes right here. And we'll press locate from the top. Here it comes right now. And we can change the levels in the house of everything we've got right here. Original DVD. This is the Yamaha. Get my levels down. Know what I'm saying? My G's out there, for those who don't know, this is how we flow on the mic. It's right and tight. It's kind of fat, right? Turn my level up. We do it here at Sample Kings. Now, I'll stop. I'll press stop here. You can hear the reverb, the little background. Everything's right there for you. So you can actually take that one particular sample and keep it within your track of your song. Like do a rap to your song within it in our Motif XS. Okay, this is time stretching. I'll press enter. Now here in time stretching, it's a unique feature used by a lot of producers today, including Kanye, and a lot of cats in the past actually, Dr. Dre, a lot of guys have been using it. You don't notice it because a lot of cats have been using it on like beats or drums or on horns or guitars. And Kanye's been using it on a lot of vocals. Well, check it out. We have time stretching. This of course is the selected sound we're going to time stretch, which is waveform number 2 in this bank, user bank. We also have the key, of course, which you know, which is C3. We have our ratio, which is 100%. And we have our accuracy. Now, ratio relates to the amount of compression that's done. So that means the higher the ratio, the more we expand the sample. The lower the ratio, the more we compress the sample. Now here also we have rhythm, accuracy. Now this is set up as a preset to give us the best quality if we have a rhythm pattern. 2 being the first setting, 1 being the first setting and 2 being the next setting, which will give us the highest accuracy with that particular sample we're using. Next, we have sound. That's a regular sound, like any kind of guitar sound that's by itself. You know, a sound that you want to actually get a more accurate reading of when you actually time switch the sample. In essence, we want to make sure the sample has the same accuracy as it did when it was the original speed it was at before. And the highest being 4. This may take longer to do, but it'll get you a better sound quality of that particular sample. The next setting we have here is normal. Now, normal is really great for when you have a sample that has, let's say, some music and sounds like guitars with a beat up behind or something. This is set for that simple, normal, time compressing, time stretch feel. Now I'm going to time stretch real quickly. We're going to go to here. I want to probably expand the sample somewhat, play it back. I'll go to here. I may set it to expand it somewhat to about 120. And I'll go down to here and I'll set it to a rhythm pattern 2. And I'll press enter to execute. Yes or no, yes. And now it's executing that function. When it gets through, I have a different sample sound. Now I want to probably hear it. See, it sort of sounds a little chunky, crunchy, a little too much to it. I'm not sure if I like it at all. I'll go back to edit here, and I can see that, for example, that's my original, of course. So I really didn't like what that actually sounded like. You've got to audition it, check it out, and see which represents the best quality for you to use for your time stretch sample. Next, we want to talk about job. Now, we already pressed integrated sampling. We've got our edit button going. We're going to press job now. Now, here in sampling, we can copy that sample, which means we can make a copy of it. We can press enter, and it'll copy it down to another waveform right here. See that? We can copy the sample. Let's exit that. We can delete a sample. We can go to enter. Let's find a sample we want to delete. We'll audition. I want to keep that one. I want to delete that one. I'll delete this one. I'll delete that one. We'll say, okay. I'll select it. That's what I want to delete. I'll press enter. Yes or no? Yes. It's completed. It's gone. Not there anymore. See that? It's gone. Now go to the next sample. That one's there. That one's there. And this one, select, is there also. See that? Pretty simple. Now, we'll exit this. The next thing we can extract. We just saw what we did. We extracted the sample out. We can extract the sample. Let's exit. Now, we can go to move. We can move a sample into a different program. We can move a sample from here into here and name where we're going to move it to. I'll press no in this case. You must decide where you want to move that sample to, into which program, or actually into which user bank. I'll press exit. We can also normalize the sound. This is very important. We can enter it. This will bring up the levels to the maximum peak that the sampler can have it at within the Motif ES. That means if you record a low sample, we can sort of bring it up to be as loud as it most possibly can by normalizing that sample's volume. Now go to the next one, time stretching. This is very popular. Done by Kanye. A lot of cats today are actually time stretching the samples. Actually, for years they've been doing it. Kanye's made it popular because people realize what he's doing, but it's been done by many, many producers. You don't realize it until you start to hear it compared to the original record. It's a very unique feature on most samples today, as it is here on the Motif ES. Okay, we also have master effects. Now, we just hold down our master effects button, and we'll see the master effects right here. We'll switch them on and switch them off. I'll turn my data wheel. I can turn them on, and here we see the particular master effect that's set here. We have 8 different effects. We have a delay, we have our distortion, we have our multi-band compression, we have our lo-fi, we have our isolator, we have our slice, and we have our ring effect, and our dynamic filtering effect. I'll press play. Slice, insulator, lo-fi, multi-band compression, and that's our control delay. I can go back up to here and turn it off. But you can see though, we can actually go through the actual particular parameters and change if you like to. There's another page for this one here. And we can change any parameter we like within this particular effect, which are the master effects that affect the overall sound output totally. I can go back here and turn it off. And we'll hear it without it. Now, I'll press stop. Now what we can also do, we can actually send those parameters to the knobs. That's right, those 4 knobs we have, so you can change those effects by going to any knob you'd like to change that particular effect. Now how that's done is that we'll press utility first, and next you'll see it. See it right there? You see utility, we'll press F4 and we'll press SF5. And you see it right here. And these knobs, we can set the particular parameter for each one of the knobs. That means now the knobs are set for each one of these parameters. And you can even change those parameters if you'd like to for the knobs. See that? And that way your knobs can control the parameters for the particular effect setting that you have in your master. Okay, we can also use those 4 knobs to use an EQ, let's say, for a specific sound. Here's how it works. I'll press the EQ button, and now we can see it says here 1. That means it's my bass sound, or my drums actually. I can solos. I'll press solo, and I'll select that track, and I'll press play. Now select the track. There we go. We have it. And I can turn it. See? I can add highs or turn the lows back for that particular drum track. When we set this EQ, now press EQ again, we see here that we're on that EQ, which is 1, where the drums are. I can press 2. I'm in solo mode right now. I may want to add more bop to that bass. And pull some highs off of there. I may press 3. A little more highs on my strings. On my keyboards, rather. I'm going to press mute solo, take those 2 out, and hear how my mix sounds. That's the way we can actually add EQ to each individual sound. That way we can help our production sound really great. Then once we add our master, we can get this full, really great sound from our Yamaha Motif XS. It's a really great instrument. Okay, we also have our master effects, of course, and we also have this bypass and the insertion system for bypass. It's bypass and blood says insertion and system. We could press play on this track. I can press insertion and we bypass it. We bypass all our effects. I'm pressing system, which is overall system effects for this particular pattern. When I put them back on, we can actually hear the effects again. Now how this works, and you can actually check out those parameters yourself, is press utility, and then we're going to press F1 for general, and we're going to go to SF3, and we can see here that those parameters are on or off, and you can see that they're also on. So the insertion parameters are on here. We have no plugins in this machine, you don't have to worry about that. And here we also have our system, and so our reverb is on, and our chorus is on. So when we press that bypass for a system, we're going to turn this chorus and this reverb off. You got me? And insertion, we're going to turn the insertion off also. We insert specific effects for specific sounds. Now what's important for you to do though is to save everything. So we always go back to file, we press file of course, and then we want to save the all file. See this is all right there? We want to save this file. But see it says load there. See load? So I want to make sure you go to save. Always go to save. And now we're in save. See that? Once we're in save, we're good to go. We go to here. Enter. Next, we go to where I want to save it right here. That's the file I'm saving. I'll press enter. And now override it. Sure, with the new settings I have now, save. Now it'll save my new effect settings along with the song and everything else to it, and I'm ready to go. Okay, we're going to hook up our MPC. The first one to do, we're going to plug something into our, right here, our A output. So, I'm going to pan right back here to my motif, and you're going to see I've got a MIDI cable right here. This is it here, and this is the in. So I'll take this MIDI cable right here, which you see right there. I'm going to put this one in the out. I'm going to go back over here and put this cable right in here in my out. So it's firmly in there. See that? And that's MIDI out. Now we'll get the next cable, which is coming from the output of my motif, which is this cable right here. And here comes the head of it. There's that cable right there. We'll take this one right here and stick this one into the in on the MPC 2000 XL or any MPC you got there. We'll take this here on your sequencer, and we'll take this cable and we put this into the input right there. You got that? Now we have an audio output, left and right cables going into our mixing system for our MPC, and now we're ready to do the MPC motif section of our DVD. It's very important to show you how you can sync up your MPC or any drum machine you've got with your motif. It's really fun. Let's do it. Now if we play, we're actually triggering sounds in our MPC. Now how you turn this off? We got our MIDI cable set up, but the MIDI output is triggering sounds in my MPC. What I normally do is I'll turn it off, so I go to my drum section right over here, and I'll press open window, and now I'm going to put on the MIDI filter. Now we'll play sounds here, and we're not triggering sounds in the MPC. Okay, we're going to use an MPC 2000 XL along with our motif. First, I'll make a beat up. Again. Okay, next one is motif. Okay, now I've got my MPC going on. I turn the MIDI filter on, so it won't trigger any sounds in the MPC. I set my MPC up to be slave and sync, alright? It's going to receive MIDI clock from our motif. Now, I've got a little sound set up. A bass on record on channel 1. Now here, I'm going to go into record. That's too fast for me. I'm going to turn my tempo down. So we're going to adjust our tempo. Turn this off. This button's going to light up a little bit, blink back. Play some bass line for me, Dave. 1, 2, 3, yeah. Real simple. Let's do it again. Alright, we got that. Now I'll press stop. I'll record the bass line. 2, 3, go. Our MPC rolling and the bass line. So now I can do, I may want to adjust the lock. I'll press mix, I'll press stop first, and I'll press my mixer. I may want to bring down that bass sound a little bit here, and I'll press play. That's pretty cool. Now I can go here to my track select. I'm on track number 2. What's in tracks on track number 2? I can press stop, I'll press record, and I know what I want to do. Before I record that, I'm going to select the sound. Like we did before in pattern mode. I'm going to go here, I'm in pattern mode, I'm going to go to my category search. So I'm going to go to first there, then go to voice, I'm going to press my category search, I'm going to find a piano for Dave to play. Get a little piano for him to play in here. We got one. We'll play the practice. Once I get that, I'll press stop, I'll press record. We got a keyboard part in here. We got a drum pad in our MPC. And we got a keyboard and a bass line in my motif. Now watch this. I'll press stop. I'm going to go to track. Track select is on. I select track number 3. Once I do that, I'm good to go. I press my mix. I'm looking for a voice. I press here. I'm going to find a voice. We're going to find something else to play on top of that little track. We're going to go hit a little synth lead. We're going to pop it down here and find something to play. Try this one right here. Like that. Here we go right here. We're going to press record again. We're on track 3 and we're going to record. Okay, record it, Dave. 2, 3, 4. Press stop in order for you to adjust your levels. Otherwise, you'll record those levels into your motif rather. Check this out. I'll press now. See that? You can control and mix your sounds from right here. I got that going on right there. I can bring this down here. No bass. Bring the bass back in. Now I can go to my MPC. We'll pan our camera to my MPC. Here's my MPC right here. So my MPC, look, see that? No beat. And my volume right here in my motif. You hear the MPC. So we can actually control either machine using its own, of course, volume level. But the unique part is that we can actually use 2 different sequences. Our MPC and our Motif ES at the same time. Okay, I've got a track playing here. Let's run it back from the top. As we can see here, we're in our volume pan. That means we hit this button here, F1, to get to that whole section. What we can do right here, we can actually pan our stuff. We can pan the drums, the bass line, the keyboard, the little guitar parts. We can pan the stuff. We can also move our cursor down, our cursor button. And now here we can actually also fade it. We can use the data wheel to fade it. Little wheel there. You can also use the faders. Here's how the faders work. Now if I select, I'm going to select 4 here, right? That says 4. Then we'll pan over here to our faders, and I can turn this fader down. This is 4, and you'll look back over here, you'll see that's turned down at 4. Now we'll go back over here to the faders again, and you'll see here I can turn down 1 or 2, and you look over here again and you see they were turned down. Now if I select 5, I'm going to press my track select button right here, and I'll press 5. Now watch this over here. You'll notice that I'm in 5. If I do my first fader down, you'll see here that it affected 5. So whether I'm moving the fader up or down here, 1, when I select 5, that means the next 4, that means 5, 6, 7, 8, can be affected. Their volume and of course your mixer knobs, if you choose to use those, will be affected by the 4 faders in this whole section, which is our control knob function section right here. This whole section right here. That means that now activates from 5, 6, 7, 8. And if I had something at 9, and I choose 9, and we go here, we'll see this at 9, then these faders here will affect 9, 10, 11, and 12. So I turn these all down. And I will affect, see how it's affected right here? 9, 10, 11, 12 will turn down. So that means if you select, let's say, 9, 10, 11, or 12, any one of these particular tracks, then our fader section, our knob section, is activated for these 4 tracks. If you select 5, 6, 7, 8, it's 5, 6, 7, or 8, then those are selected, then our control function section right here with the knobs and the faders will affect those 4 tracks. And so on. That means when we go to 13, 14, 15, 16, if we press 13, and then we'll see here that we're in 13, then I can go over here with the faders and bring these all down. And you'll see here that these have been brought down. So any one of these 4 means that if you select one of them, that section for the knob control function and the faders are activated for these 4. And those 4 the same way, here and here the same way. Okay, you got your sequence, you got your pattern. I got my song going on. This is so cool. I can be in pattern, I can be in my chain also. I can go here to mix. I'm sorry, I go back to play. I can go to mix. And here in mix, as you can see, we are in mix, we can mix the tracks up. Here's how we can do that. If we pan over to the left-hand side of our keyboard, right over there, to the left, I'm going to go all the way over to our little mixer section right there. I can press play. I can turn the drums out. See that? Keyboards. So you can actually mix your tracks up. See that? Now if you go back to our screen here, we can even change the panning. Remember, we're in pattern and we're in volume pan. See that right there? This is pattern. It's F1. I can change the panning of that keyboard. The keyboard part's right there. I just changed it. See that? Now I'm all the way to the right. Now I go back in the center here. I can put my fader back up. Other fader in. And we're good to go. So you can also affect the changes within your pattern. It's really great. Okay, now we've got our song going on here with the effects. So now I'm going to probably play something, tracks here, and I think I'm going to solo the first track, the drum track. You see right there, it's already soloed, it's chosen, and next thing we're going to do right here is we are going to turn the data wheel. Hear the effect there. Turn no effect, more effect. See that? That's our return. So we're setting it at the send, that's coming back with the effect and the sound. We can move our cursor down, we can add the chorus to the drum. So we can add that different sound to it, see that? And we can cut it back some too from the original sound. Now in this case, I'm going to add a little bit of effect, not much verb. Just a little verb on the drums there. I'm going to select my next track, so my bass, no effects there. A little reverb on that. Here's the guitar. I'm at least not playing this particular section of the pattern. I like reverb right here. We don't want too much verb. We want to make sure we have it so it's just enough verb. And this sounds like to have a lot of verb on. So it sounds real ethereal, so it's in the background kind of. Also for my strings. may also want to add a chorus somewhere. So I prefer to probably add the chorus. If I do anything chorus, I will add it on my guitar. So enough chorus of guitar. Now, check it out. Now it sounds better for me. I've added some effects, as you can see there. Gives me more of a really nice full sound I'd like to have.